Shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge Al-Akyam, who are pushing this truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. A shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. And this is Shabai from the GMS Denver camp. Brother Shabai doing a lesson in 1 Kings 5, and it's dealing with setting up the construction and the building of the first temple of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, which King Solomon was the king of Israel, who the Lord had basically gave him the ability to build a temple dedicated to Yahweh, because you have to understand, it was all set up in the spirit for Solomon to build the temple, because as we know, King David, his father, was constantly at war with the heathen, conquering the heathen, ruling over the heathen. So Solomon, during his years, during his reign, it was peace on all his borders, on all the borders of Israel, because his father David, King David, had basically, locked it up for him. So to the point where Solomon had peace during his reign, and he had time to build the temple, right? So this account here in 1 Kings 5, it goes into what you learn, because we focus on prophecy here at GMS. That's our primary focus, but we also go into history, all right? And this is dealing more with history, okay? Because it's, you got to know that, like our elders always say, you got to know the history to know the mystery. All right. And when we go into this account, what you learn is that, there were Canaanites who actually helped build the first temple, because understand that during the time of King David and Solomon, the heathen were under subjection to us. All right. We were the superior kingdom. Okay. And the heathen nations were subject unto us, and they respected us, and they, and as we read this account, you see that they are more than willing to assist King Solomon in the building of the temple, as we read the chapter. And then I have another chapter that we're going to go through, Lord's will. Pull out some precepts out of the 2 Chronicles, the 2nd chapter, which also precepts, the building of the temple. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and read. It says here, and Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in the room of his father. For Hiram was ever a lover of David. All right, so Hiram had a utmost great respect and reverence toward King David. Okay, it says, and Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, and Tyre, when you go to Tyre, you realize that this is that's a chief city in Canaan. Okay, so let's keep reading. Which Hiram, he wasn't an Israelite. Okay, so let's keep reading. Thou knowest how that David my father could not build an house unto the name of Yahweh his power, for the wars which were about him on every side, until Yahweh put them under the soles of his feet. And that's what I was kind of alluding to when I opened up the lesson. King David was always at war, right? He was a warrior king, okay? But like I say, he did all the warring, all the fighting, and then King Solomon, he had time to, gather this great wisdom. He had time to, build the temple, and it was all ordained that way by Yahweh. So let's keep reading. Verse 4. But now Yahweh, my power, hath given me rest on every side, so that there is neither adversary nor evil occurring. You see? And behold, I purpose to build an house unto the name of Yahweh my power, as Yahweh spake unto David my father, saying, Thy son, whom I will set upon thy throne in thy room, he shall build an house unto my name. Okay? And this is the temple. And this is, this shows you the name is important, because when King Solomon built the house, built the temple, he says he's dedicated unto his name. Okay. And then the spiritual temple, this third temple that's being built. So, it's when you build a temple dedicated to Yahweh, you have to know his name. See, both phones chimed on that. It says, Now therefore command thou that they hew me cedar trees out of Lebanon, and my servants shall be with thy servants. And unto thee will I give hire for thy servants, according to all that thou shalt appoint. For thou knowest that there is not among us any that can skill to hew timber like unto the Sidonians. Okay? And so the Sidonians were Canaanites, all right? And these Canaanites from Sidonia, they were skilled at hewing timber, and the word hew means to cut, all right? So they had that skill. And King Solomon saying right here, listen, let me read it again. It says, I give hire for thy servants according to all that thou shalt appoint. For thou knowest that there is not among us any that can skill to hew timber like unto the Sidonians. So the Sidonians had this talent and special skill in cutting wood, cutting timber, right? It says, And it came to pass when Hiram heard the words of Solomon, that he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be Yahweh this day, which hath given unto David a wise son over his great people. Okay? So Hiram, listen, he was a heathen. But the thing was, like I said, King David had the heathen in subjection. Okay? The heathen, they respected King David, not like today where, we were looked down upon from the heathen, It was a different time, you see. It was a different, like we always tell you, Israel was, had its, we still had our glory, you see. You fast forward to this day and age, and we've lost our glory. We're coming back into our glory with the men who are being raised up and in the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. But during this time of this account here in Kings, 1 Kings 5 that we're reading, we still had our glory. We still had our respect. We still had our dominion. Okay. It says, And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have considered the things which thou sentest to me for, and I will do all thy desire concerning timber of cedar and concerning timber of fir. My servants shall bring them down from Lebanon unto the sea, and I will convey them by sea in floats unto the place that thou shalt appoint me, and I will cause them to be discharged there. And thou shalt receive them, and thou shalt accomplish my desire in giving food for my household. So Hiram was with it, He was more than happy to assist King Solomon, because like I said, we read in the first verse, he loved King David, Solomon's father. Okay. So Hiram was ecstatic to be able to, be hired, so to speak, and help and assist King Solomon with the building of the temple, right? Because remember, the Sidonians, they had that skill of, able to hew timber, cut wood, right? Like fabricating. So we call it today, you fabricate things. That deals more with stones and whatnot, but it's still a skill, okay? It says, so Hiram gave Solomon cedar trees and fir trees according to all his desire, and Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 measures of wheat for food to his household, and 20 measures of pure oil. Thus gave Solomon to Hiram year by year. So it was an agreement, right? It was like a covenant. It was like a contract, right? And Yahweh gave Solomon wisdom as he promised him. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they too made a league together. All right. So that word league, it goes into covenant, it goes into alliance. Okay. It says, and King Solomon raised a levy out of all Israel, and the levy was 30,000 men. All right. And he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month by courses. A month they were in Lebanon, and 2 months at home. And Adoniram was over the levy. And Solomon had 70,000 that bare burdens, and 70,000 hewers in the mountains, beside the chief of Solomon's officers, which were over the work, 3,300, which ruled over the people that wrought in the work. Okay, so as you can see, the construction of the temple, the first temple of Israel, of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, was, it took lots of manpower. It was a huge, project. Okay. It says, and the king commanded, and they brought great stones, costly stones, and hewed stones to lay the foundation of the house. And Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders did hew them. Okay, so you can see here, Hiram, which was a Canaanite, then the Sidonians, they were helping with the building of the first temple. Okay, so they prepared timber and stones to build the house. All right. So now let's go to that other chapter that I told you would precept with this chapter. It's going to be 2 Chronicles 2, and we'll start at the top. Okay. It says, and Solomon determined to build an house for the name of Yahweh, and an house for his kingdom. And Solomon told out 70,000 men to bear burdens, and 70,000 to hew in the mountain, and 3,600 to oversee them. See, so like I was saying earlier, lots of manpower to build the first temple. You had thousands of men, who were rotating, their time by the decree and the order of Solomon. They would have 1 month off, and then 2 months they'd be working, 1 month off, and they would rotate. So verse 3, and Solomon sent to Hiram, the king of Tyre, saying, as thou didst deal with David my father, and didst send him cedars to build him an house to dwell therein, even so deal with me. All right. So basically, it's almost like reading that other chapter in 1 Kings 5. Right? It's almost the same account here. Well, it is the same account, but it's in a different book. It says, behold, I build an house to the name of Yahweh my power, to dedicate it to him, and to burn before him sweet incense, and for the continual shewbread, and for the burnt offerings mornings and evening, and on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and on the solemn feasts, and Yahweh of Yahweh our power. This is an ordinance forever to Israel. Right? Again, reinforcing that, hey, these are ordinances forever to Israel. When we go out on the street corners and teach, we're basically burning sweet incense spiritually. Okay. We keep the Shabbats. We're aware of the new moons. We through the rehearsing the righteous acts here in Babylon, we keep the solemn feasts, right? An example of a solemn feast would be the Passover, okay? Where it's a solemn, a solemn feast. It's not like a big party. It's a solemn high holy day. Right, let's get this definition for solemn. Solemn definition. formal and dignified, right? Ceremonious, courtly, you see? Serious, not cheerful or smiling. Serious, you see? Somber. So this is it's not like a big party. It's a solemn assembly, okay? It says, "In the house which I build is great, for great is our power above all powers. But who is able to build him an house, seeing the heaven and the heavens of heavens cannot contain him? Who am I then that I should build him an house, save only to burn sacrifice before him? Send me now therefore a man of cunning to work in gold and in silver, and in iron and in purple and in crimson and blue, and that can skill to grave with the cunning men that are with me in Judah and in Jerusalem, whom David my father did provide." Right? So this was, like I say, King Solomon reaching out to Hiram, who, like I said, these heathen, they were in subjection to us. All right? But they did have skills that were necessary, and Solomon had wisdom, so he was like, yo, we're going to build the most magnificent temple for you to dedicate to Yahweh. So we need to get these Sidonians over here and hew this wood, you see? And these heathen were, a part of the physical temple. Don't get it twisted. They're not part of the spiritual temple that's being built today. But they were subjects under us, and it was an honor for the heathen to build the first temple, to assist. Okay? Just like in the kingdom, when we rule over the heathen, they're going to be honored to build up our, structures, our temples, our whatever we have built, whatever we desire. These heathen are going to, when you're in rulership, when you're in dominion, everybody else basically is, going to fulfill the desire of what you want, you see? So let's keep reading. Phone chime on that. It says, verse 8, "Send me also cedar trees, fir trees, and algum trees out of Lebanon, for I know that thy servants can skill to cut timber in Lebanon, and behold, my servants shall be with thy servants." You see that? So you had the heathen servants were with the Israelite workers, okay? Servants, right? It says, "Even to prepare me timber in abundance, for the house which I am about to build shall be wonderful, great." And again, I want to stress the fact that this is a physical temple being built. These heathen are not part of the spiritual temple that we're building, all right? That Yahweh B'Shem Yoshai is building, all right? So don't get it twisted. All right, it says, "And behold, I will give to thy servants the hewers that cut timber, 20,000 measures of beaten wheat, and 20,000 measures of barley, and 20,000 baths of wine, and 20,000 baths of oil." And a bath is a measurement, which I looked into. It's basically 9 gallons. All right. So if read that again, and 20,000 baths of wine and 20,000 baths of oil. So that was 20,000. Multiply that by 9 gallons, 20,000 times for oil and wine. That's a lot. It says, "Then Hiram, the king of Tyre, answered in writing, which he sent to Solomon, because Yahweh hath loved his people. He hath made thee king over them. Hiram said, Moreover, blessed be Yahweh, the power of Israel, that made heaven and earth, who hath given to David the king a wise son, endued with prudence and understanding, that might build an house for Yahweh, and a house for his kingdom. And now I have sent a cunning man, endued with understanding of Hiram my father's, and the son of a woman, and the daughters of Dan, and his father was a man of Tyre." Okay. "Skillful to work in gold." Because there was a time when, I believe when King David was trying to escape and elude King Saul when he was trying to kill him. That, and matter of fact, I know that there was a time that King David, when he was fleeing from Saul, to preserve his life because Saul wanted to kill him, that King David dwelt with the Canaanites. All right. So let's keep reading. Skillful, that's why it says, and his father was a man of Tyre. Okay. So, I'd have to research that. So I don't know if that's exactly where King David went, but, forgive me for not understanding and knowing that 100%. So I'm going to just keep reading. Skillful to work in gold and in silver and brass and iron, in stone and in timber, in purple and blue and in fine linen and in crimson. Also to grave any manner of graving, to find out every device which shall be put to him. With thy cunning men and with the cunning men of the Lord David my father. Right? So again, this was that league, that alliance, the covenant, And remember, it's different when you're in dominion and you have an alliance with the heathen, because they have to, they're subjects unto us. It's not like right now you don't want to make covenants with the heathen because we're the subjects. We're under them right now, right? So there's a difference. When you make a covenant with the heathen and when you have a dominion over the heathen, that's different than having, a covenant or an agreement with them or an alliance, like in this case, when you are the ruler. And I want to stress that point, you see, because this doesn't mean, you go make covenants with the heathen, okay? All right, verse 15. Now, therefore, the wheat and the barley and the oil and the wine which my Lord hath spoken of, let him send unto his servants. And we will cut wood out of Lebanon, as much as thou shalt need, and we will bring it to thee in floats by the sea to Joppa, and thou shalt carry it up to Jerusalem. And Solomon numbered all the strangers that were in the land of Israel, after the numbering wherewith David his father had numbered them, and they were found 150,000 and 3,600. And he set 70,000 of them to be bearers of burdens, and 80,000 to be hewers in the mountain, and 3,600 overseers to set the people a work. So it was a league, it was an alliance, with these they were heathen, and they actually, they were hewing the wood, they were bringing the trees to the Israelites, to King Solomon, by the decree of King Solomon, and there was an agreement there, right? Yahweh had given Solomon the substance to where he could offer the heathen all of these things, the wheat, the barley, the oil, right? So yeah, man, just wanted to go. Like I said, we here at Great Millstone, we focus on prophecy, but it's also we go into history as well. So that's what this lesson was, pertaining to history. And in particular, the history of the building of the first temple, which, King Solomon, he did that, dedicated that first temple to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. So with that, I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Rakah Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.